The Galactic Council's secret weapon. The vast chamber of the Galactic Council hummed with an undercurrent of panic. Holographic displays flickered around the room, each one depicting the scene more dire than the last. The Zorn Empire's warships, sleek and predatory, sliced through the outer defense grids of the Galactic Alliance as if they were made of gossamer. High Counselor Zixnera, her iridescent scales dulled with stress, slammed a tentacle against the central podium. The resounding boom silenced the chamber instantly. "Esteemed colleagues," she began, her voice modulator struggling to maintain a calm tone. "The situation has escalated beyond our worst projections. The Zorn have breached the Crimson Barrier. At their current pace, they'll reach the core worlds within a standard solar cycle." A cacophony of voices erupted, a mixture of disbelief, fear, and anger. Representatives from 100 different species gesticulated with appendages of all shapes and sizes, their universal translators struggling to keep up with the outburst. "Impossible," bellowed Grok, the granite-skinned delegate from Petros IV. "The Crimson Barrier has stood for 10,000 years. No force in the galaxy cold." "Evidently," interrupted Elorix, her crystalline form shimmering with agitation, "the Zorn have developed technology beyond our understanding. We must activate the Stellar Forge immediately." Zixnera's eye stalks swiveled towards Elorix. "The Stellar Forge is a myth, Counselor. We cannot base our strategy on ancient legends." "Then what of the Void Crucible?" chittered Kebs, mandibles clacking furiously. "Surely the time has come to unleash its power." The chamber descended into chaos once more, with counselors shouting over one another, each proposing more outlandish superweapons and artifacts of questionable existence. Amidst the pandemonium, a figure moved. Cloaked in shadows, it had remained unnoticed in the far corner of the chamber. Now, as it glided towards the central podium, counselors fell silent, parting to make way. The figure reached the podium and threw back its hood, revealing a face that belonged to no known species in the Galactic Alliance. Bipedal, with smooth skin and a shock of dark fur atop its head, the being regarded the council with eyes that seemed to hold depths of unknown wisdom. "Who dares intrude upon this sacred chamber?" demanded Zixnera, her tentacles coiling defensively. The being smiled, a gesture that seemed both reassuring and predatory. "I am Agent Omega of the Galactic Intelligence Division." Murmurs rippled through the chamber. The Intelligence Division was spoken of in whispers, its very existence a topic of debate among conspiracy theorists. "I come before you today," Omega continued, "with a solution to our Zorn problem. One that doesn't rely on myths or legends, but on a force so primitive, so raw, that we've overlooked it until now." Omega raised a hand, and a holographic display sprang to life in the center of the chamber. It showed a blue-green planet, spinning slowly on its axis. "Behold," Omega announced, "Planet Earth." The chamber erupted in laughter. Grok's booming guffaw nearly shook the walls. "That backwater. I've seen more advanced civilizations growing in petri dishes." Omega remained unperturbed. "Yes, their technology is primitive. Their society, fractious. But they possess something that no other species in our records has demonstrated to quite the same degree." The hologram zoomed in, showing scenes from Earth's history. Battles raged across the display. Humans fighting with spears and shields, with gunpowder weapons, with advanced firearms and vehicles. "Observe their tenacity," Omega said, voice filled with a mixture of awe and fear. "Their adaptability. Their sheer, unrelenting drive to survive and conquer." The council watched in stunned silence as the hologram displayed humans achieving the impossible time and time again, crossing oceans in wooden ships, flying through the air in machines of their own creation, setting foot on their own moon with technology that by galactic standards was little more than scrap metal and hope. "But surely," Elorix interjected, her crystal form vibrating with skepticism, "they're no match for Zorn battletech. What can clubs and chemical propellants do against quantum disruptors and neutron flares?" Omega's smile widened, I'm glad you asked, Counselor. With a wave of his hand, the hologram shifted to a new scene. It showed a human military base, shrouded in secrecy. This footage was obtained at great cost, Omega explained. What you're about to see is classified at the highest levels of Earth's governments. The hologram zoomed in on a testing ground within the base. The lone human figure stood at one end, clad in what appeared to be a bulky suit of armor. At the other end, an array of weapons, many recognizably of Earth origin, but some distinctly alien in design. We may have nudged their development in certain directions, Omega admitted. A crashed scout ship here, a meteorite composed of exotic alloys there. We wanted to see how they'd adapt to advanced technology. The test began. The human in the armor moved with impossible speed, dodging energy beams and projectiles that should have turned the testing ground into a crater. The council watched in awe as the figure closed the distance to the weapons array, disabling each with precision and efficiency. Impossible, whispered Zixnera. No known material could withstand that kind of firepower. Exactly, Omega said. No known material. But these humans, they've combined their own primitive yet robust materials with the advanced tech we provided. The result is armor that's more flexible, more responsive than anything we've developed. And the human inside, their reflexes, their instincts, their ability to think creatively under pressure, it's unlike anything we've seen. The hologram faded, leaving the council chamber in contemplative silence. But they're so violent, Kebs chittered nervously. If we bring them into the galactic community, who's to say they won't turn on us? Omega nodded gravely. A valid concern. But consider this. The Zorn are at our doorstep. We've tried diplomacy. We've tried technology. We've tried overwhelming force. None of it has worked. These humans, they're our wild card. Unpredictable, yes. Potentially dangerous, certainly. But they might just be exactly what we need to survive. High Counselor Zixnera's eye stalks swiveled as she considered the options. The fate of 1,000 civilizations hung in the balance. Finally, she spoke. Agent Omega, your proposal is unorthodox, to say the least. But desperate times call for desperate measures. You have the Council's authorization to proceed. Make contact with these humans. Extend an invitation to join the Galactic Alliance. But be warned, if this backfires, the consequences will be on your head. Omega bowed deeply. Understood, High Counselor. I assure you, when the humans arrive, the Zorn won't know what hit them. As the agent turned to leave, the council chamber burst into frenzied discussion. Plans needed to be made, protocols established for dealing with these unpredictable newcomers. But beneath the logistical concerns, a current of hope ran through the assembly for the first time in years. Unnoticed by all, Omega allowed himself a small, satisfied smile as he slipped out of the chamber. Soon, the galaxy would witness the full potential of humanity unleashed, and nothing would ever be the same again. Operation First Contact. The sleek alien craft sliced through Earth's atmosphere, its advanced cloaking technology rendering it invisible to even the most sophisticated human radar systems. Inside, 5 beings from across the galaxy sat in tense silence, each lost in their own thoughts about the mission ahead. Commander Zarthal, a towering insectoid with iridescent compound eyes, clicked his mandibles nervously. Remind me again why we're risking everything on these primitives. Dr. Lyra, the team's xenobiologist, her translucent skin shimming with bioluminescent patterns, sighed. Because, Commander, sometimes the most primitive solution is the most effective. These humans have a history of overcoming impossible odds. If anyone can help us defeat the Zorn, it's them. The craft's pilot, a being of living metal named Crix, interjected. Entering lower atmosphere now. Prepare for landing. As the ship descended, the team got their first real-time view of the planet below. Sprawling cities, vast oceans, and green continents spread out beneath them. It's beautiful, whispered Vex, the team's cultural specialist, her tentacles waving in awe. "And primitive," grunted Gron, the security officer, his rocky skin grating as he shifted in his seat. "Look at all that pollution, the inefficient use of space. These humans have a long way to go." The ship touched down silently in a remote desert area. According to their intelligence, a classified human military exercise was taking place nearby, the perfect opportunity to evaluate Earth's combat potential firsthand. As the team exited their craft, Zarthal activated his personal cloaking device. The others followed suit, shimmering out of visible existence. "Remember," he cautioned, "we're here to observe only. No interaction with the natives under any circumstances." They made their way across the harsh desert landscape, their advanced environmental suits protecting them from the unfamiliar conditions. After a short trek, they crested a dune and beheld the human military base spread out before them. Vex's eyes widened behind her cloaking field. "Fascinating. Look at the variety in their vehicles and weaponry. It's as if they can't agree on a single design philosophy." Gron snorted. "Inefficient. In combat, uniformity is key." "Perhaps," mused Dr. Lyra, "but that variety might also be a strength. It suggests adaptability, creative thinking." Their debate was cut short by a sudden flurry of activity in the base below. Soldiers were scrambling, vehicles roaring to life. At the center of it all, a large hangar door was slowly opening. "This is it," Zarthal whispered. "Their secret weapon." From the hangar emerged a figure that made even the alien observers gasp. It was humanoid, but massive, easily 3 meters tall. The being was encased in a suit of armor that looked both sleek and incredibly robust. As it moved, the observers could see the armor adapting, shifting slightly with each step. "Incredible," breathed Dr. Lyra. "They've managed to create a responsive exoskeleton using their limited technology. The energy readings I'm getting are off the charts." The armored figure strode to the center of a marked testing area. Various weapons, from traditional firearms to what looked like prototype energy weapons, were arrayed around the perimeter. A voice boomed over the base's speaker system. "8 suit test commencing. All personnel clear the area. Major Chen, are you ready?" The helmet of the suit retracted, revealing the face of a human female. She grinned, a fierce expression that sent a shiver through the alien observers. "Ready as I'll ever be. Let's push this suit to its limits." The test began, and what followed left the alien team in stunned silence. Major Chen moved with impossible speed and grace, the 8 suit amplifying her every movement. She dodged volleys of gunfire, her armor deflecting what few rounds managed to hit. When faced with an energy weapon, she didn't evade. Instead, the suit seemed to absorb the blast, redirecting it harmlessly into the ground. This is beyond anything we expected," Zarthal managed to say. "The suit's capabilities are impressive, but look at how she's using it. The reaction times, the tactical decisions. It's all there." Vex nodded enthusiastically. "It's like the suit is an extension of her body. The integration between human and machine is seamless." The test reached its climax as multiple weapon systems engaged simultaneously. For a moment, it seemed like even the impressive 8 suit would be overwhelmed. Major Chen was engulfed in explosions and energy discharges, obscured from view. Gron grunted. Well, it was impressive while it lasted. No way she survived that. But as the smoke cleared, a figure emerged. The 8 suit was scorched and dented, but still functional. Major Chen stood tall, her expression a mixture of exhaustion and triumph. The base erupted in cheers. Scientists and soldiers alike rushed to congratulate Chen and examine the suit. But suddenly, alarms blared across the facility. Warning: critical system failure detected. Atlas suit power core destabilizing. Panic ensued as personnel scrambled to evacuate the area. Major Chen, still locked in the malfunctioning suit, struggled to move towards the hangar. We have to help her, Vex cried, taking a step forward. Zarthal held her back. We can't reveal ourselves. This isn't our fight. They watched in tense silence as Chen fought against the failing suit. Sparks flew from joints, and ominous creaking sounds echoed across the now deserted testing ground. Just when it seemed the suit would explode, taking its pilot with it, something extraordinary happened. Chen's face contorted in concentration, and slowly, impossibly, the suit began to respond. Her movements, at first jerky and uncoordinated, smoothed out. The alarming sounds from the suit quieted. With a final, Herculean effort, Chen managed to manually disengage the suit's locks. She stumbled out, collapsing to the ground as the glass armor shut down behind her. The alien observers stood in shocked silence. Dr. Lyra was the first to speak. Did you see that? She overrode the suit's systems through sheer force of will. The neural interface shouldn't allow for that level of control. Gron's rocky features had rearranged themselves into an expression of grudging respect. I've never seen anything like it. The strength of mind to wrestle control from a malfunctioning eye. These humans are something else. As the human medical team rushed to Chen's aid, Zarthal made a decision. We've seen enough. It's time to make contact. But the mission parameters, Vex began, have changed, Zarthal finished. These humans have exceeded every expectation. They're ready. With that, the alien team disengaged their cloaking devices, shimmering into visibility at the edge of the base. Alarms immediately blared anew, and they soon found themselves surrounded by very nervous, heavily armed human soldiers. The Gauntlet of Trials. Major Sarah Chen stood at the viewport of the alien shuttle, her eyes wide with wonder as Earth shrank to a blue marble behind them. Despite her extensive training, nothing could have prepared her for this moment. She was the first human to leave the solar system, carrying the hopes and fears of her entire species with her. Magnificent, isn't it? Came a voice beside her. Chen turned to see Zarthal, the insectoid alien commander who had extended the invitation to the stars. It's overwhelming, Chen admitted. I never thought I'd see Earth like this. Zarthal's mandibles clicked in what Chen had learned was a gesture of understanding. The first view of one's homeworld from space is always profound, but I'm afraid we don't have time for sightseeing. We're approaching the testing facility. As if on cue, a massive structure shimmered into view as they dropped out of faster-than-light travel. It was an asteroid, easily the size of Earth's moon, but hollowed out and filled with technology beyond Chen's wildest imagination. Welcome to the Crucible, Zarthal announced. This is where we evaluate potential members of the Galactic Alliance. The trials you face here will determine not just your fate, Major Chen, but the fate of your entire species. Chen swallowed hard, squaring her shoulders. I'm ready. What's first? The shuttle docked, and Chen was led through winding corridors to a vast chamber. Alien beings of all shapes and sizes filled observation galleries above. At the center stood a simple pedestal with what looked like a helmet resting on it. A holographic figure appeared, a being of pure energy that Chen recognized as an ethereal, one of the oldest species in the galaxy. Major Sarah Chen of Earth, it intoned, its voice resonating in Chen's mind rather than her ears. Your trials begin now. Are you prepared to represent your species? Chen nodded firmly. I am. Then let us begin with the trial of mind. Chen approached the pedestal and put on the helmet. Instantly, her world dissolved into a kaleidoscope of colors and sensations. She found herself floating in a vast library, with books and data streams swirling around her. Your task, the ethereal's voice echoed, is to solve an equation that has puzzled our greatest minds for millennia. You have 1 hour. Symbols and numbers flashed before Chen's eyes, a dizzying array of advanced mathematics. For a moment, panic threatened to overwhelm her. This was beyond anything taught on Earth. How could she possibly? Then, a memory surfaced. Her old calculus professor talking about approaching seemingly impossible problems. Sometimes, he had said, you need to change your perspective entirely. With that thought, Chen began to see patterns in the swirling data. She started manipulating the equation, not just with mathematics, but with intuitive leaps that seemed to surprise even the watching aliens. As the last seconds ticked away, she rearranged the final symbols. And, extraordinary, the ethereal whispered, "You've solved it." Chen removed the helmet, blinking as the chamber came back into focus. The observing aliens were buzzing with excitement. "How?" one of them called out. "How did you approach it from that angle?" Chen shrugged, a small smile playing on her lips. "Sometimes you need to think outside the box." The ethereal's hologram shimmered. "An interesting human idiom. But you'll need more than mental acuity to face the challenges ahead. Prepare yourself for the trial of body." The floor of the chamber reconfigured itself, transforming into a complex obstacle course that seemed to defy the laws of physics. Gravity shifted unpredictably. Obstacles appeared and disappeared, and energy fields crackled ominously. "Navigate the course," the ethereal instructed. "Reach the other side within the time limit." Chen took a deep breath, centered herself, and began. Her Atlas training kicked in as she leaped, rolled, and sprinted through the course. When gravity reversed, she used it to her advantage, building momentum for impossible jumps. When energy fields threatened to disintegrate her, she timed her movements to slip through gaps in the pattern. Halfway through, disaster struck. An unexpected gravity caught Chen off guard, sending her hurtling towards a wall of crackling energy. In that split second, she made a decision that left the observers gasping. Instead of fighting the pull, she went with it, using the momentum to slingshot herself through a narrow gap in the energy field. She crossed the finish line with seconds to spare, panting but triumphant. The ethereal's hologram flickered with what might have been approval. Impressive adaptability. But now we come to the most crucial test. The trial of spirit. The chamber transformed once more, this time into a perfect replica of the Oval Office. Sitting behind the desk was President Jacobs. "Major Chen," he said gravely, "we've received an ultimatum from the Galactic Alliance. They're offering us advanced technology, enough to solve all of Earth's problems overnight. In exchange, they want unrestricted access to Earth's resources and population for the war effort." Chen's mind raced. This couldn't be real. The president wouldn't be here. This was part of the test, but what were they looking for? The false president continued, "I'm ordering you to accept the deal. It's the only way to guarantee Earth's safety and prosperity." Chen stood straight, her voice firm. "With all due respect, Mr. President, I cannot follow that order." "Explain yourself, Major," the president's eyes narrowed. "Sir, accepting that deal would be trading our long-term freedom for short-term gain. Yes, we need allies and technology, but not at the cost of our autonomy. Humanity has faced existential threats before and overcame them through ingenuity and determination. We can do so again." She took a breath, then continued, "Moreover, sir, I don't believe this is really you. The leader I swore to serve would never sacrifice our people's freedom, no matter the promised rewards." The Oval Office melted away, leaving Chen once again in the alien chamber. The ethereal's hologram seemed to glow brighter. "Integrity," it said. "Wisdom. The courage to stand by one's principles, even in the face of authority. These are the qualities we sought, and you have demonstrated them admirably." Zarthal stepped forward, his compound eyes shimmering with what Chen had learned to recognize as respect. "Major Chen, you have passed the gauntlet of trials. Earth will be welcomed into the Galactic Alliance, not as a subordinate, but as an equal partner." The chamber erupted in cheers and alien vocalizations of approval. Chen felt a wave of relief wash over her, followed quickly by a sense of the enormous responsibility now resting on her shoulders. As the aliens crowded around to congratulate her, Chen's mind was already racing ahead. She had proven humanity's worth, but the real challenge was just beginning. Somehow, she knew the skills she had demonstrated today, mental agility, physical adaptability, and unwavering integrity, would be crucial in the cosmic war to come. The fate of Earth, and perhaps the entire galaxy, now hung in the balance, and Major Sarah Chen, the first human to pass the gauntlet of trials, was ready to face whatever challenges the universe had in store. Betrayal among the stars. The grand reception hall of the Galactic Council's space station was a riot of color and sound. Delegates from 100 worlds mingled, their translators working overtime to facilitate communication. At the center of it all stood Major Sarah Chen, still adjusting to the newfound attention her species was receiving. To Earth and its promising future in the Alliance, toasted Zarthal, raising a glass filled with a luminescent liquid. The assembled dignitaries echoed the sentiment, their various appendages lifting drinks of all colors and consistencies. Chen smiled diplomatically, but her military training kept her on edge. Something felt off about the whole affair. The looks some delegates were giving her ranged from curiosity to outright fear. As she navigated through the crowd, she overheard snippets of conversation. But can we trust them? You've seen their history. Potential to turn the tide against the Zorn, but at what cost? If they're this advanced now, imagine in a few centuries. A tap on her shoulder interrupted her eavesdropping. She turned to find Dr. Lyra, the xenobiologist from the observation team. Major Chen, Lyra's bioluminescent patterns pulsed with what Chen had learned to recognize as excitement. I was hoping to discuss your species' remarkable adaptive capabilities. Perhaps a tour of our medical bay would be enlightening. Chen nodded, grateful for an excuse to leave the reception. As they made their way through the station's winding corridors, Chen's unease grew. The halls were eerily empty. Dr. Lyra, Chen began cautiously, I can't help but notice we're heading away from the main areas of the station. Lyra's patterns flickered nervously, perceptive as always, Major. The truth is, Suddenly, warning klaxons blared throughout the station. A computerized voice echoed through the corridors. Warning. Life support systems failing in Sector 7. All personnel evacuate immediately. Chen's blood ran cold. Sector 7 was where they were headed. Lyra grabbed Chen's arm, her usual calm demeanor shattered. We need to go now. This wasn't supposed to happen yet. What wasn't supposed to happen? Chen demanded, but Lyra was already running back the way they came. As they rounded a corner, they came face to face with Gron, the security officer from the observation team. His rocky features were set in a grim expression. Lyra, you fool, he rumbled. You were supposed to have her contained by now. Chen dropped into a defensive stance, her mind racing. What's going on here? Gron's stony fist swung towards her, but Chen's Atlas training kicked in. She dodged, using the alien's momentum to send him stumbling past her. Major, run, Lyra cried out. There's a plateau. Her words were cut short as Gron recovered, grabbing her with his massive hands. Chen hesitated for a split second, torn between escaping and helping Lyra. That moment of indecision cost her as the corridor suddenly depressurized. Emergency force fields snapped into place, but not before Chen was sucked towards the breach. She slammed against the force field, the air driven from her lungs. Through the shimmering energy barrier, she could see the vast emptiness of space, and beyond that, a small maintenance airlock. Her comm unit crackled to life. Zarthal's voice came through, tight with concern. Major Chen, what's your status? We're detecting multiple hull breaches. Zarthal. Chen gasped, fighting to draw breath in the rapidly thinning air. It's a trap. Someone on the council. The comm went dead. With no other options, Chen began to move. Using the minimal gravity of the force field, she pulled herself along the corridor's edge towards the airlock. Each movement was agony, her lungs screaming for oxygen. As she reached the airlock, a new problem presented itself. The controls were alien, covered in symbols she couldn't read. Chen's vision began to blur as hypoxia set in. In a desperate gamble, she pressed her palm against the access panel. For a heart-stopping moment, nothing happened. Then, with a hiss, the airlock cycled open. Chen tumbled inside, gasping as breathable air filled the small chamber. But she knew she couldn't stay. Someone had tried to kill her, which meant Earth was in danger. Using the emergency supplies in the airlock, Chen cobbled together a makeshift spacesuit. It wasn't pretty, and it certainly wasn't rated for extended EVA, but it would have to do. She cycled the airlock open and launched herself into space. The vastness of it all threatened to overwhelm her. Chen had trained for zero-G operations, but nothing could prepare her for the reality of floating in the void, the massive space station looming above her. Focus, she told herself. Find a way back in. Find answers. Using the suit's maneuvering thrusters, Chen made her way along the station's hull. She needed to find an entry point that wouldn't immediately alert her would-be assassins. As she rounded the curve of the station, she spotted a maintenance hatch. It was a risk. For all she knew, it could be monitored. But it was her best shot. Chen reached the hatch and began working on the manual override. As she did, movement caught her eye. A sleek ship was detaching from the station, moving with clear purpose. Her blood ran cold as she recognized the vessel. It was headed straight for the coordinates where the Earth delegation's ship was docked. With renewed urgency, Chen wrenched the hatch open and pulled herself inside. As soon as it was sealed, she discarded the makeshift suit and started running. She had to warn Earth, had to stop whatever was happening. But how? She was alone on a massive alien station, hunted, with no idea who she could trust. As she rounded a corner, she nearly collided with a familiar figure. Vex, the cultural specialist from the observation team, let out a startled squeak. "Major Chen, you're alive." But how? Chen grabbed Vex, pinning her against the wall. Who's behind this? What are they planning for Earth? Vex's tentacles waved in distress. I don't know all the details. There's a faction on the Council. They believe humans are too dangerous to be allowed into the Alliance. They want to make an example of Earth, to discourage any other upstart species. Chen's mind raced. A show of force against Earth would cement this faction's power and keep other species in line. It was clever, ruthless, and absolutely something she had to stop. "Vex, I need your help. Can you get me to a communication terminal? One that won't be monitored." Vex hesitated, then nodded. "There's an old system in the archives. It's not connected to the main network." "But Major, what are you going to do?" Chen's expression was grim. "I'm going to expose this plot to the entire Galactic Alliance, and then I'm going to save my planet." As they moved through the station's shadowy back corridors, Chen's resolve hardened. She had been chosen to represent humanity among the stars. Now she would show the galaxy exactly what that meant. The road ahead was fraught with danger. Allies could be enemies, and enemies might become allies. But one thing was certain. Major Sarah Chen was no longer just fighting for a place in the Galactic Alliance. She was fighting for the very survival of Earth. Humanity's galactic debut. The Grand Assembly Hall of the Galactic Council buzzed with tension. Representatives from countless worlds shifted nervously in their seats, eye stalks swiveling and tentacles twitching. At the center of it all stood Major Sarah Chen, her face grim but determined on the massive holographic displays. And so, Chen's voice rang out. "I present to you irrefutable evidence of this conspiracy against Earth and the principles of the Galactic Alliance itself." The hall erupted into chaos. Accusations flew. Translators struggled to keep up with the cacophony of alien languages. In the midst of it all, a group of counselors, led by the granite-skinned Grok, rose to their feet. "This is preposterous," Grok bellowed. The human lies to cover her own species' warmongering nature. Before Chen could respond, alarms blared throughout the station. The holographic displays flickered, showing a massive fleet dropping out of faster-than-light travel. "The Zorn," gasped an avian counselor. "How did they find us?" Realization dawned on Chen's face. It wasn't just Earth they wanted to eliminate, she said, her voice cutting through the panic. "This faction has been feeding information to the Zorn. They're using this attack to cover their tracks." As if to confirm her words, Grok and his allies made a dash for the exit, but they found their path blocked by Zarthal and a team of security drones. This council is not adjourned, Zarthal clicked, his compound eyes glinting dangerously. The station rocked as the first volley of Zorn weaponry struck its shields. The High Counselor, a being of pure energy contained within a crystalline structure, floated to the center of the hall. We have no time for trials now. The High Counselor's thoughts resonated in everyone's minds. Major Chen, you warned us of this threat at great personal risk. Now we ask for your help once more. Will you lead our defense? Chen stood straighter, her voice firm. Hearth stands with the Galactic Alliance. I'm ready. What followed was a flurry of activity that would have been dizzying if not for Chen's intense focus. She was ushered to the station's command center, a vast chamber filled with holographic displays and alien technology beyond her wildest imagination. The Zorn fleet outnumbers us 3-1, reported Crix, the living metal pilot. Our defenses won't hold for long. Chen's mind raced, recalling every scrap of information she gleaned about the various alien species and their technologies. A plan began to form. We don't need to match them ship for ship, she said, her fingers flying over the alien controls with surprising ease. Crix, can you reconfigure our shield harmonics to match the frequency of Zorn weapons? Crix's metallic features shifted in confusion. Yes, but that would weaken our defenses significantly. Do it, Chen ordered, and prepare to drop shields on my mark. The alien officers exchanged worried glances but complied. On the main view screen, the Zorn fleet loomed ever closer, their blood-red ships bristling with weaponry. Shields reconfigured, Crix reported. Major, if this doesn't work. Chen managed a grim smile. A wise man once said, sometimes you need to think outside the box. As the Zorn opened fire, Chen watched the energy readings carefully. Just as the barrage reached its peak, she shouted, now, drop shields and reverse polarity. For a heart-stopping moment, nothing happened. Then, miraculously, the Zorn energy weapons began to refract, turning back on their own ships. Explosions blossomed across the enemy fleet. It worked. Zarthal chittered excitedly. Their own weapons are destroying them. But Chen wasn't celebrating yet. This won't hold them for long. We need to press our advantage. Scramble all fighters and have them focus on the flagship. As the battle raged, Chen coordinated the Alliance's counterattack with a skill that left her alien allies in awe. She combined ethereal telepathy with Krek's swarm tactics, used Vulcan gravity wells to disrupt Zorn formations, and even managed to turn a nearby pulsar into a makeshift weapon. Hours passed in a blur of tactical decisions and split-second choices. Finally, as the last Zorn ship fell to the combined might of the Alliance fleet, a cheer went up in the command center. But their victory was short-lived. A massive energy signature appeared on their sensors, dwarfing anything they'd seen before. By the cosmic cores, whispered an ethereal officer, it's the Zorn Emperor himself. The view screen filled with the image of a being that seemed to defy description. Part machine, part energy, part something utterly alien, the Zorn Emperor radiated malevolence. Insignificant specks, the Emperor's voice boomed, somehow understandable to all despite using no known language. Your resistance is futile. Surrender now, and your deaths will be quick. Chen stepped forward, her voice steady. We will not surrender. The Galactic Alliance stands united against your tyranny. The Emperor's form shimmed with what might have been amusement. Bold words from such a primitive species. Very well, human. Face me in single combat. When you fall, your allies will see the futility of their resistance. Before anyone could object, Chen nodded. I accept. Moments later, she found herself transported to the Zorn flagship, face to face with the Emperor. The being towered over her, its form shifting and writhing in ways that hurt to look at. Your species is young. The Emperor's voice resonated in her mind. You cannot hope to comprehend, let alone defeat, one such as I. Chen settled into a fighting stance, her Atlas training kicking in. "We may be young," she replied, "but humanity has faced impossible odds before. We don't know how to give up." What followed was a battle unlike any the galaxy had ever seen. The Emperor wielded powers that bent reality itself, but Chen countered with sheer human determination and adaptability. For every cosmic force thrown at her, she found a way to turn it back on her opponent. The fight raged across dimensions, through time itself, witnessed by countless beings across the galaxy. And through it all, Chen held her ground. Finally, battered and exhausted, Chen saw her opening. As the Emperor prepared a final, reality-shattering attack, she ducked under his guard and struck at the one constant she'd observed in his ever-shifting form, a small, pulsing core of energy. Her fist connected, and the universe seemed to hold its breath. The Emperor's form exploded in a nova of light and energy. As the radiance faded, Chen found herself back on the Alliance station, surrounded by cheering aliens. The High Counselor approached, its crystalline form glowing with approval. "Major Chen, you have done the impossible. The Zorn Empire is in disarray, their leader defeated. The galaxy owes you a debt that can never be repaid." Chen, bruised but standing tall, shook her head. "I only did what any of us would have done. This victory belongs to all of us, human and alien alike." As news of the victory spread, celebrations erupted across the galaxy. Earth was hailed as a savior, their admission into the Galactic Alliance now unopposed. In the days that followed, Chen found herself at the center of a whirlwind of diplomacy and accolades. But through it all, her mind was on the future. Humanity had made its galactic debut in spectacular fashion, but their journey was just beginning. As she stood at the viewport, watching ships from 100 worlds come together in a show of unity, Chen allowed herself a small smile. Whatever challenges lay ahead, she knew one thing for certain. Humanity was ready to take its place among the stars.